All right, ready?
Rosie, you ready?
Yes.
Rich, are you ready?
That worked well.
Nanette? The press and the Down Beach Current were notified of this meeting. A copy of same was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. Would you take a second, turn off telephones and electronic equipment, and stand for the flag salute? Attention, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Rosie, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Becker?
Here.
Mr. Blumberg?
Here.
Ms. Tarvey? Here.
Okay. As you know, we have just come out of executive session 15 or 20 minutes ago, and Mr. Abbott is going to read his statement. Scott?
It's my pleasure, and Ms. Lopiana, if I can help you on this, I'm sure you're probably going to want to get these words correctly. We had former representative Rob Andrews of the law firm of Dilworth Paxson meet with the governing body in executive session, and the governing body is going to move forward with having Mr. Andrews represent the city, and the purpose will be the following: to advocate on all appropriate levels of government for a successful resolution for Margate's objectives on the proposed Absecon Island Shore Protection Plan, including but not limited to preparation of litigation, should it become necessary, in accordance with previously adopted resolutions and in accordance with the forthcoming referendum. I'll give it to you later on if you want it word by word. But that's it, Mayor. Anything else?
All right. Thank you. At this point, Mr. Deeney.
Commissioners, I have that I will give you each a copy of a proposal. It's not a proposal, it's the results of a proposal from Joe Chiron from Chiron on Corup, civil engineering and landscape architects who were hired earlier this year to do a concept plan for the Parkway. Our Parkway was last done more than 30 years ago, and as you know, it has somewhat overgrown, and it was suffered some damage through the years through several storms, and it's been patched together, especially with respect to the fountains and so forth, over the last couple of years. And we've been looking into and talking about for 2 years a new project on the Parkway that would restore it to its grandeur that when it was first built back 30 years ago. Joe Chiron is a resident of Margate. He was the original landscape architect on the plan, and he has a lot of his personal interest and heart into the project. He's made a couple of presentations to our staff, and we would like to give you tonight so that you can share with members of the public 2 different concepts, and you can take these with you, and we'd like to get your ideas and really the ideas of the community before we go ahead and move to another phase with respect to this potential project. So I'm going to distribute these to you either right now or right after this meeting, and you can take them with you. They're both concepts have been reviewed thoroughly by the staff, and while individual members of the staff have their own preferences, I can tell you that each of the concepts are concepts that those that have seen it can live with and feel very good about. Should you have any questions right now, fine. Otherwise, you've got a couple of weeks to take them with you and study them, and be back in touch with myself or Frank or Ed who are the most knowledgeable, and perhaps Roger as well. Any questions?
No questions.
Thank you.
You're up again, Rick.
I am. Somewhere here I have a letter from the AARP, a unit of the AARP in Atlantic County has conducted each spring tax sessions for individuals who can come in, would like to come in and have volunteers work with them on their personal income taxes. This is a program that's I'm familiar with from other places. It's not unique to Atlantic County. They've been doing it for quite a while, and for whatever reason, they are now looking for space that they, because they don't have adequate space wherever they were doing it previously. I'm asking you tonight, we have a lot of space in this building that could be available, made available to them. They'd like to use it for approximately 10 weeks, I believe, on 1 day a week for 5 hours a day. I think it would be Mondays during late February, March, and early April.
I'm okay with
They would
that.
have 10 sessions. There would be 10 different people as a
Consensus.
council. Is it all
By
right?
us.
Consensus.
All right. We'll work on it.
Cool. Thank you. We'll go now to department head reports. Why don't we start on the right this time, Jim?
Winding down on the summer, we got a lot of job sites still cleaning up. I think the problem ones on Nassau and Rumson are 98 to almost 100% cleaned up on their job sites. The one on Quincy's cleaned up down at the end. I know Frank's been down there a number of times cleaning up the street. We're looking into devising a different method of how people drain their pools into the gutter. I know that's been a problem with the water in the gutter continuously. The pumps run 24/7. We're looking into possibly doing a pipe system down to an inlet, or just putting a cover on the pool that would just stop the water from coming in, rainwater, and then they would just pump it when they're ready to install the pool. I don't know how many complaints you got, but that one on Quincy was a real mess with the way the water went down into the sewer system. By law, we have to allow them to distribute the water to the sewer, but we would rather them try to find an alternative method. The other thing I would like to promote to you would be maybe July 1st to August 30th, maybe no construction of any type on beach blocks. I know that's a crazy thought, but the amount of complaints we've had this summer are just nonstop. Any thoughts to that, or is that even worth looking into, or 2 months of no construction?
Work up a proposal and present it, Jim.
When we look into it? It's worth a thought.
I understand where you're coming from and why you're suggesting it, and I guess it kind of makes sense that to not. I wonder if other communities do that are, I don't know.
I was
Or we
just-
could always be the first.
I was winging it just to see if you guys were even, just fishing.
Go for it, Jim.
So let's see if anybody else does it, because of the beach block parking with the trucks in front of the car, and it's just a mess.
Cool.
And that's all I have.
Legally, Scott, can we stop
do that?
I
construction?
think it would be difficult to say that for 2 months out of the year, you can't do construction work on your house. I mean, there's so many exceptions. What if your roof blew off? Not allowed to replace the roof? What if your sewer line broke? What I do think is, because I hear the complaints too, and I see them, perhaps a stronger effort on keeping their job sites clean, enforcing the hours they work, because I think what happens, and I don't know that our police are really onto this or not, but I think a lot of them work beyond the hours that are permissible. I've seen them on Sundays working at times, and that's very tough to stop. Sometimes they have a lot of building debris or material in the city right-of-way and in the street, and that's a great inconvenience as well. All in all, from what I hear from all the contractors, is Margate's a great town to work in because it's in a very efficient construction office and zoning office, and that we're very reasonable. And I'm not saying that we should become more difficult, but I think maybe the area should be not prohibition, but some more restrictions, or perhaps a little bit more of a coordination with our police department, our public works, and whoever else, to lessen the burden on those that are down for the summer to enjoy their summer. Because I certainly sympathize. But to just say outright for 2 months they can't work on their homes,
Well,
I don't know if we want to go down that path.
would it be a possibility, Jim, Scott, to prohibit new construction? I mean, if somebody's roof blows off, I understand that. That's an entirely different, situation.
I guess you could. I mean, we certainly prohibit demolition. What's our time frame on the demolition, Jimmy? I forget.
June 15th to September 15th.
To September 15th. It's something to think about.
Mike, I think it would be unreasonable. I'm going to agree with Scott here. It would be unreasonable to suggest that somebody that's building a new house starts the house, whatever, in December, and then can't get it finished, and you're going to stop it in June or July, for 2 months. I just don't think it's feasible or realistic. And I would agree with Scott, Jimmy, that if we make sure that the hours that they work are adhered to, that the job sites are clean, that the sidewalks are clear, then the only issue you really have are, trucks on the streets, but really no one else is allowed to park on the beach block anyway. So I don't see that it's, unless you got 2 or 3 houses on the same block
Jim,
at the
what?
same time.
Do you think you're okay with that?
We can try that. I was just taking a stab at it, and I was going to say should be new construction only, not emergency repairs. But,
Just as I'm thinking this through, what would you do if the job started in January, but it was a McMansion, and it takes them 10 months to a year to build it? Now, come June, they have to stop? Well, it's a brand new, it's a lot of, it gets very complicated when you try to restrict
So
those 2 months.
You will,
Do you agree with that? I mean, what if they start?
Are you all right?
let me just do some research. Let me see if any other towns do it and how they do it.
All right.
okay, good enough.
Fair enough.
All right. Anything else, Jim?
That's it.
Roger?
But it's a very interesting question. I was thinking, beside everything Scott and Maury said, how can you just pick out the beach block to give them a special treatment of no construction? Well, but beach block has no parking, so actually there's more room for construction vehicles. We get complaints all over town. Anyhow, I'm also working with code enforcement on the question of residential lighting standards, which we don't have, and it turns out very few other towns have, where we're getting a lot of complaints about people putting really bright lights to protect their expensive automobiles, for example, which then shine into the bedroom windows of the neighbors next door. So we're gathering material from other communities, general code publishers, and so forth, and we're going to come up with a recommendation sometime soon on that. Otherwise, we're just extremely busy in our office.
Thank you. Rosie?
Now, if the one person in the city clerk's office is fine, thank you.
Scott?
No, I think I've said it all for today. So we made some progress on what we're doing with the shore protection issue, and other than that, that's really all I have.
Thank you. Rich, do you have anything else? Lisa?
I have nothing today, thank you.
Lisa? Tony?
I have nothing really to report out of the ordinary, but everything is going well. Very busy at the fire department and beach patrol, but things are going well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Frank?
Likewise, we're very busy. We're keeping up with the summer crowds on the beach, and the yard on Sunday and Wednesday are extremely crowded, but we're able to keep up with the workload, and we're moving right along. We're coming to the close of summer. There's some events coming up. We're looking forward to them, and we're moving on.
Thank you, Frank. Ed?
I have a lot. First item, I want to go through some of the projects. The municipal building repurposing, 1 South Washington. We had a project coordination meeting yesterday morning between all the design professionals and Fred Verna. We're in real good shape with the plans. There's a few questions. We have to actually make a decision about maybe bringing someone on for interior finishes. Maggie, I don't remember Maggie's last name, but she did 1 South Washington last time. So I have a call out to her because I would assume we'd want to try to keep the consistency of what we had there. We anticipate about 3 weeks we'll be out to bid, that we should be able to get everything resolved. And I have reached out to FEMA people just to see if they have any more comments on the plans that they received a couple weeks ago. I believe we sent it to them back on July 21st. I haven't heard a word, so we're just going forward with getting this out to bid. I would love to have everything completed by next summer so that we can get back in there, we can get our court back in there. I don't know if it may have been announced previously, but we received an additional $100,000 from the 4086 Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. So now we have $186,000 towards our 2 generators for this building. There was some additional paperwork, of course, and that's being completed. That has to be submitted by August 28th. I attended a seminar on this 2 weeks ago, so that was good news. Ventnor Avenue Streetscape, I spoke with Jim Rotella regarding our grant for that program, and it's in review still. I'm hoping to be able to put out what we have designed to bid for this fall so that we can get that work done. The 2015 state aid applications are due by October 14th, so we have to decide what street we want to pick for that application. One suggestion I have is Winchester Avenue. We put that one in last year along with with Amherst. They funded the remainder of Amherst, so we may want to look at Winchester. That was funded by state aid back in 1993, I believe. So it's at the end of its useful life. So that's just one. If anyone could think of any other heavily traveled street that we'd want to do, I would open that up. Another suggestion maybe is it time to start looking at Atlantic Avenue. Section, maybe break it into a 5-year program with state aid. So we'll have to talk about that. The 2013 road program, which is actually being accomplished in 14, and Lisa and I have had conversations about how we can rename these programs so that everyone is straight on them. We will be scheduling a pre-construction meeting for that program. That was awarded, contracts were signed. Asphalt Paving Systems was a successful bidder on that. So we would like to get that started early in the fall or maybe late summer so that we don't wind up with open roads like we had last year from bad weather. Well, number 10, again, that was awarded, contracts are executed, and we're looking for work not to start on that until October of this year. We'll have a pre-construction meeting scheduled for that also. The 2014, which will be in 15 road program, is in design process right now. Okay. The 2014 state aid program project, which was Amherst from Vendome to Washington, we have to look at the funding source for that for next year. That would probably be, if we can work this out, something that we would design over the winter and award and construct in the spring. Our current road program, I'm not going to get into the year, is complete with the exception of about 5% of the punch list items. One item being Essex Avenue Beach Block. There is a stretch of curb that holds water. I hear from the residents regularly. I assured them that once the season is over, we'll go in there, take it out, and have the contract re-pour that concrete. The municipal building this municipal building direct install program, which we were received, I believe our commitment was $17,000. And their estimate was, my estimate was $90,000 to accomplish the work, of which we are contributing 17. It's essentially the 2 units that service this room, the roof-mounted air conditioning heating units, as well as water conservation items, lighting conservation, electrical conservation. So we did have a pre-construction meeting for that, and the work is going to, it'll commence the week of September 8th. And what I told the contractor is that we're fine with them working on this room as long as it's not the first or third Thursday. So they should be able to accomplish it in between those two. The only other thing, we had our Coastal Coalition meeting today, and there were some representatives from the Jacques Cousteau Center, and the group, the Coastal Coalition group, didn't vote, but essentially there was a consensus that we want to be part of creating, and this may be the wrong term because it was a little fluid what the real term is, but it's be a program for public information committee, okay? Apparently there is not one in this state yet. There's not one that's been ordained by the community, the CRS people. And we felt that we had enough members there, there were enough people at our Coastal Coalition to represent up to 10 Atlantic County municipalities and 4 or 5 in Cape May County. And the benefit of this is obviously public information on the community rating system and different mechanisms for flood protection. But the benefit is there are hundreds of points that are available in the CRS by doing this. And apparently they're starting to look up in Monmouth County to do it. And it was felt that it was best for the local municipalities to actually create the programs. So they handed out information. There would have to be from each municipality 2 advocates. One be the community rating system person as well, and then someone else. Could be me, could be anyone else to represent each community. And only one has to be at the meetings. But they were saying 400 points are possible just by doing this. And then any activity you encourage or accomplish would give you more points.
So Jim would be our CRS person, and then would you two be able to work together so that one or...
And the thought was we would schedule our meetings the same day, an hour later than we have our current meetings, so that we have everyone there.
Good.
So that was it. It was a good meeting. In addition, I was asked by Mayor Marty Palugi down in Avalon and the Cape May County Board of Freeholders to serve on a committee essentially to rewrite the dredge manual for the state. And we had discussions. We had our first meeting at Stockton at the Dakota Creek facility, and Dr. Farrell is there as well as some other members, and it's various engineers from the various towns. And what we're looking to try to do is capitalize on the new and improved and helpful, hopefully, attitude of the DOT in dredging now that they have taken over from DEP. We still have to get a DEP permit, but the activity is going to be governed by DOT. And one of the items we discussed, and I believe, I've brought this up and Scott has brought this up, is the thin spray distribution of the spoils. And it's happening right now by the Army Corps of Engineers near the wildlife refuge in Stone Harbor, and they're actually spraying Stone Harbor wetlands and Middle Township wetlands. And the Army Corps of Engineers has taken control of that, and apparently took the attitude, well, we're the Army Corps of Engineers, we don't need a DEP permit. So they just did it. I don't know if I'm maybe simplifying that, but They did then have to go back to the DEP, but apparently it is happening. It started started August 12th, and they're experimenting with different methods. I spoke to them about our issues, and everyone there agreed that we should set up a meeting with the DOT and the Genevieve, who is the head of that program, who's running that program for dredging. And I also spoke to them about the possible acquisition of trying to, either the state acquiring or whatever property for a disposal site. So we're going to focus on that. That's the focus of our committee now. It's also the focus of this meeting, this group. So I just want to, I don't want to lose the momentum there. We need to be dredged. Our back bays need to be dredged. And I'm hoping we can come up with, there's a lot of good minds working on this, and I'm hoping that we come up with something. I told you I had a lot.
Thank you, Ed. Maury?
Yeah, Ed said a lot of good things. One of the great things that he said was that we are very, very close to getting ready to start renovations at the Washington Avenue complex. And for those of you that don't know what that means that we will hopefully be back in the courtroom with our commission meetings. We will have court back there. We also plan to have our historical society housed there, and we're going to have some additional parking. So I think it's a great thing. I'm looking forward to it and excited about the potential. And the other thing that I had is I wanted to offer my congratulations to the Margate Hurricane County League baseball team. We had great coverage in the Atlantic City Press. The team won its 20th championship title since 1978. So congratulations to Yogi Hiltner and the Margate County League baseball players. That's all I have.
Thank you, Maury. Brenda?
Just a few things. I too am excited about getting back at Old City Hall for our meetings. I know Steve is. He'll be able to hear me. But I think
Steve, there goes the baffles.
I think we're looking at by next summer. Was that the list? Okay, that's great.
That's the intent.
Okay. I sent an email out earlier about the tree trimming on the streetscaping blocks, and I got an email from Rich that said he thinks that the city should be responsible for trimming the trees on those. Is everybody in agreement with that? Okay, all right. Just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. And then lastly, I don't know if Rich has any renderings of the Parkway project, but if we do for the public, maybe we can put it out between meetings so they can take a look too. And that's all.
I'd just like to thank everybody for the cooperation in the executive session meeting that we had. I think we took a big step to move forward with consensus, and it's great. I think hopefully we'll be able to heal the city and move forward and do what we have to do. And with that, we will open to public comment, 3 minutes on whatever was discussed here today.
Mr. Mayor, forgive me, I've been asked to ask you to explain your last comments. You know this room is terrible for hearing, and it was not audible.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Baffles, we need baffles.
I'm sorry, Steve, your 3 minutes are up.
Well, I made the
You explain later. Okay?
I don't know, I couldn't hear either.
Steve, did you hear me say that you would be happy to hear that we'll be back at City Hall by next summer?
I heard that
You-
part.
okay.
I heard that part. I've got 3 quickies for you. For Jim, on his comments, would graduated bonding be anything that would be useful to help with construction issues? I don't know the legality of it. Mr. Abbott, I'm sure, does. But it would seem to me, I'm a great walker in the community, and there are certain construction companies which seem to me to to always have a lot of debris on the sidewalks and so on. And if that were a repeated thing, maybe posting a bond, which could then be used for cleaning up purposes if the construction company didn't obey your rules. Is that a possibility or no?
We'll look into it.
Okay.
Okay, sure.
Second item, I think Frank said something last week about holes on the beach that were damaging your equipment. Was that correct?
They haven't actually damaged them, but the potential is there.
When I was a young boy growing up here on the beach, the lifeguards used to make people, if they dug a hole, they had to fill it before they left the beach. And I can tell you again, as a walker of the beach almost every day, I have nearly tripped and stumbled in holes all over the beach. I wondered whether that we could revert back to that. If you dig it, you fill it in before you leave. And that might solve a lot of problems. Of course, a lot of the holes are below the high water mark, so the ocean does that job fairly well. But if it's up in the loose sand, it could be a serious issue.
True. We'll look into that also, Steve.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And my last point is for Ed. Is there any word on reinforcing bulkheads on the back bay? I know that was one of your concerns.
Not at this point.
Not at this point. I thank you, and I don't know what you said either, Mr. Mayor, so thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Sewell, 22 West Drive, following up on the comments of the mayor and the solicitor regarding the executive session. The track record of this commission over the past 12 to 18 months has been horrendous vis-a-vis keeping containment on legal costs. My question to the mayor is, since we've already blown nearly $250,000 on the whistleblower case, can we perhaps preclude this fiasco with this go-around with the dunes, particularly when we paid for 2 legal opinions, one of which stipulated $30,000 as the doable number? Have we had a little bit of fiduciary responsibility from this commission during that executive session? I don't mind you being behind closed doors, Mayor. I just don't like to see our taxpayers being gouged by the $250,000. And I still keep asking you, Mayor, are there any referral fees on any of these assignments? Can you answer those questions, Mayor? You want to refer them to your solicitor, who's a little more cogent, a little less addled.
Why don't we do that, John?
Solicitor, do you mind pitch hitting for the mayor?
Well, John, it's difficult to understand where you're coming from sometimes. It seems as though you're advocating that we do fight the state about the dunes, but then you're saying do it without lawyers. Unfortunately, the one lawyer who had given an estimate of $30,000 declined to have himself considered to represent the city. He chose not to submit a proposal, and so that $30,000 went out the window.
Well, then what came in the window then?
You'll find out at 5 o'clock.
You'll find out at 5 o'clock, but what came in is just what I said at the very beginning. We
The
consulted...
suspense will kill me, solicitor.
Well, Rob Andrews
about
was
6
asked
o'clock,
to
John?
make a presentation, and he
A
did.
man of great repute, we might note.
Correct. So we'll go over it again
A
at 5 o'clock.
sterling character.
As far as this thing about referral fees, I have no clue what you're referring to.
Well, I'm
What do
glad you don't,
mean?
solicitor. I'm very glad you don't.
So how do we respond to that then?
You simply
say it every meeting.
You simply make a statement to the effect that there are no referral fees associated with any of these legal contracts. Go on the record, solicitor,
There are no referral fees, John,
on any and all
on anything.
legal contracts.
I
You talking
think
about me or
No,
mayor,
we're
or
talking
who are you
about, we're talking about anybody in general.
There are no referral fees to anybody.
Well, that'll make me sleep much better tonight.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Yes. But also, moving on to Mr. Dini's,
John, you have 15 seconds.
I'll wrap it up in 15 seconds.
Thank you, John.
If Mr. Dini has had the time to look into the parkway landscaping, perhaps he could spend an equal amount of time looking at potential grants for the historically recognized gardens of Marvin Gardens. They are on the historic registration of both the state and the National Historic Registry. And I'm sure there must be some grants dancing out there, and I would certainly appreciate it if you pursue them. And I think Roger will vouch that the historic aspect of the gardens only pertains to the physical gardens and not to the homes themselves. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, John. Anyone else?
Steve Warner, 103 North Sumner Avenue. I'd just like to comment about the building on the beach block and what have you. Being in the construction industry over 40 years. I worked in Deal, New Jersey at one point, and in Deal, New Jersey, when you go in the building department, it says on the wall, there'll be no construction outside from June 15th to September 15th. So if you want to do any building, you have to do it not then, okay? And but you're allowed to finish up what's going on inside the house, but as far as like framing the house or anything like that, siding, roofing, anything else, you're not allowed to do it. And it's the entire city, it's not like one area. I don't think you could say you just can't work on the beach block. It would have to be the whole city. And as somebody that's involved in building, really, you could work around it. I don't think it's out of it, you know, it shouldn't be as difficult as maybe you think it is. It takes maybe 1 to 2 months to frame a house, and then as far as the siding and all that could all be done, I would say, within 3 or 4 months. Now, the finishing the inside could take you just as long, but I don't see why that would be unreasonable, really, for as long as everybody knew what the rules were. You know, you can't do any framing or anything outside during the summer, and you know, just work your schedule around it. I think that's reasonable, and it's done in other places in the state. And I know it's a tremendous inconvenience to a lot of people, with all the trucks and everything else in the summer, with all the other traffic. It's really, it's a mess. And I think it's reasonable. Like I said, Deal, New Jersey, for one. And also a lot of these high-rises and what have you, they won't let you in the summer. June 15th, that's it, you're done. You're not allowed in the building. And if there's an emergency or something, you know, there would be an exception. There would be exceptions, but still, I think it's reasonable.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sharon Simon, 424 North Thurlow Avenue. I can speak from very personal experience about the builders next to me. They work on Sunday, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. They're there with their staple gun or nail gun, which makes a very loud noise, at which point I open my window and go, "Yo, got 5 minutes to get out of there, I'm calling the police." And then in very broken English, or probably Spanish, because they want to pretend like they don't know what they're talking about, go, and I go, 5 minutes, police, and then they leave. This has happened at least 5 times over the summer. And they have trash everywhere, they block sidewalks. I mean, it's been a mess. And this is a builder that builds a lot in the city. Jimmy has even participated in a couple meetings with the builders. And he so much as took my fence down and put a board on my air conditioner and left it there. So it is a serious problem if you happen to live next to someone like that kind of builder. Moving on to this, congratulations or thank you, I think, to the commission on moving forward with legal counsel. I'm a little not clear, you just had a resolution to go to vote, so we can't spend any money on a challenge until November, when they vote and say we can, but you're hiring a lawyer to challenge. Mayor Becker, you said that you're going for an immediate injunction.
I never said injunction.
You're quoted in the paper, so you did say it. You might not have meant it. I believe the solicitor said you didn't mean it. What you meant was we're going to look for attorneys, but it's in print. Could someone add some light to this? Commissioner Blumberg, how are we going to hire somebody if we have to go to referendum first?
Go ahead.
At the last meeting, we did in fact pass a resolution that indicated that we were going to seek outside counsel, and that's what we did today. So in accordance with that resolution that we passed, we have engaged that outside counsel.
So we don't have to wait for the vote in November?
We're going to memorialize that at 5 o'clock.
You're going to what? I'm sorry.
We will memorialize that at 5 o'clock.
Oh, okay. And the other question I have is for the mayor, and I guess for Commissioner Tobey, is we already know that they're supposed to be on our beaches before November of the election. And you do get calls from DP, Commissioner Martin, and you will know when they're coming on. They're coming on to our beaches, and our vote's not till November. What do we do now? Are you just going to say, oh, sorry, I wanted to ask your permission even though I asked you once, and can't help it, they're on the beach, I can't be blamed? Is that your...
That situation was discussed with the attorney that we talked to today, and that if that happens, then we'll have to have, he will be prepared to move on, but we'll need another contract. Okay.
Before the vote in November?
If it happens before the vote.
Okay, so on record, just so we're clear, that if in fact we find out as a city, you as mayor, that there's going to be some project moving in some form before the November vote, that the attorney that we are engaging with the city together will look into taking some action and not waiting until the voters say yes. That's correct?
He has promised us today that that is not included in the contract that we're going to award tonight, but they will be prepared to immediately act under another contract.
They will be prepared, meaning the attorney?
That is correct.
But you will approve it. And Commissioner Tobey, you're shaking your head, yes, you will approve?
It's already been approved, right?
Okay. No, that's just what I wanted to know. And lastly, I just want to say that in March of 2014, this letter from a solicitor to Mayor Becker, Commissioner Blumberg, and Tobey, after a meeting with the different officials, March of 21st, it has been mentioned a number of times by members of the governing body that perhaps the city would benefit from outside or independent counsel's opinion. If such an opinion is to be obtained, it must be done as soon as possible. To that end, and he encloses some things. That was in March of 24. I think the frustration with John and other people with the $10,000 we just spent on these other two opinions is it was done so late, and then you pass a resolution saying that we're going to ask first if we can spend money. So it was a waste of $10,000 if your whole intent was then to pass another referendum and say we're not going forward. So it's a little confusing to us out here. Maybe you can tell us more about it at 5 o'clock. Stay tuned for 5 o'clock. Thank you.
Sick puppy. Anyone else? Motion to close public comment.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
And Ms. Tawby? Yes.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Tawby? Yes.
We will take a 7-minute break and we'll open the 5 o'clock meeting. Where?
Another day. Huh? Almost. How many more? How many more?
Scott, where are we going to put in this?
Let me ask you this. Now,
She's a sick pup.
she is a sick